Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm a Quaker. But my early upbringing was in the Baptist church, and I went to chapel as a young girl and grew up in a church until well into my teens when I became a member. I've looked back on those days and I'm extremely grateful, actually, for the grounding that I had, especially in the New Testament, because it stood me in good stead for all my life. I still dip into the New Testament for guidance and faith. In the early days of the church, the teachings may seem simple, but there were many interpretations at that time. And there developed, not long afterwards, certainly within 100 years, great many complicated councils on truth and heresy, and the development of a creed in order to get people into line, as it were, into a church. But there have continued to be interpretations of the Christian faith. The huge break came with the Reformation and the rise of Protestantism, where each person could interpret the scriptures in their own way. For example, at this time, some churches had baptism at the time of birth, or more or less, and others it was a symbol of someone choosing to become a Christian, and they had baptism in adult life. There's a further development of that, of course, which is that God is accessible, not only accessible, but indwelling. When I was in my teens, early teens, there was a hymn at my church. I think it frightened me to death, really. And you had to sing, I won't sing, I'll spare you it. You have to stand one day in judgment. You have to stand there by yourself, and no one here can stand there for you. You have to stand there by yourself. It's no wonder I felt a bit scared. The trouble is that a God who is a God of judgment and of vengeance, maybe a pretty harsh one at that, is not my idea of God. And I'm grateful that many Christians over the years have been able to interpret God in a completely different way. I do believe in an indwelling God, and this is what George Fox, who's regarded as the founder of the Quaker meetings, believed. I believe that God is love. Love has great power. It has the power of transformation, and that is what I think the Holy Spirit is. Can I just tell you a little story? I worked in Romania for many years. I'm a special needs teacher, and we worked in an orphanage for children age up to 3. Many of the children had no possessions of their own, none at all. They were dressed in whatever came to hand in the morning, clothes that were too long, nappies that fell off. There was a small piece of carpet, really very small, and because it was a hard, cold ceramic floor, when the children were playing, they were just pulled back to sit on the carpet. There were no toys. No toys at all, so there was nothing to do. And it was difficult for the staff even to know who their names were, what their names were, so they had no identity. But I was an aid worker, and I went into the room along with my colleague, and we just knelt on the floor with the children. And they rushed at us. They absolutely rushed at us, because what they wanted was a bit of attention and a bit of love. And we opened our arms, and the children just climbed in, and you had several children and your arms just wouldn't meet while you were just cuddling them, really. There was one child, just one, and he was different. I later learned his name was Christy, and he was 3. The other children wanted to be loved, but this child climbed up on my knees and he kissed me, because this child knew that he had the capacity to give it, to give love, as well as knowing he wanted to receive it. Whenever I got distressed in Romania, and I very frequently did, I thought of this child, because I know that God is love, and we all have the capacity to love.